Welcome to New Game Plus. This is a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name's Dustin.
My name is Kenny.
Coffee Nolan.
And this is episode 341, and it is a Patreon poll!
Pool.
No,
Yeah.
Nolan,
Yeah.
you are disgusting for not being excited.
I'm just speaking facts. I don't know what you want.
People have loved this summer pool party.
No
It's
one
been
has
a
said
great
that.
pool party.
No one has said that.
Kenny has said that.
I've been looking at Discord and everyone's agreeing with the old Nolster, if we want to be honest.
Well, before we get to the final Patreon pool game of the summer pool party, let's talk about this past week where I was able to attend a leadership conference and one of the speakers was the VP of Human Resources for Blockbuster.
You mean was?
Well, sure. Not still. There's not many HR things that have to happen with Blockbuster anymore.
Okay. That's kind of cool.
He talked about the human side of human resources. He talked about empathy, but we don't care about that. So let's just talk about Blockbuster, just using that as a segue. Can you recall, whether it was from Blockbuster or a different store, like Take One Home Video for me,
Video
although I
Giant.
did do Blockbuster, of course.
Blockbuster.
Can you recall what game or games you rented most?
Yes. I
Cool.
can.
All right. That's all I want is just a yes or no.
Kenny, yes or no?
Kenny?
No. I
Okay.
cannot
All right.
recall.
Let me tell you the strat. It was multiple times a week almost. Because it was you could do a 3-day rental or a
Right.
longer. When you do a 5 or 6.
And it had the colored stickers on the front.
Yes,
that
they
would
had the
tell
yellow
you?
and the red ones. So what you do is, if I didn't think I'd play it very long, I'd get the 3-day rental. And so I always rented that that Spider-Man Carnage game. We played
Maximum
it.
Carnage?
Yeah, Maximum Carnage. I liked the cover of it. And I would get a movie. I was really big on Three Stooges growing up. My dad put me on. I've watched them over and over. I would rent the same Three Stooges movie. I mean, it wasn't a movie. It's different skits, but and so I would do that twice a week. The other game that I would always rent is Bomberman 64.
Oh,
Yeah.
So 2 games that we played on the podcast.
Yeah, because you didn't have
Here's-
memory cards. Your save data was on the carts, so you'd get lucky sometimes and it would still be on there. No one had deleted it, but then somebody would delete it. I love
Sure.
renting games.
Here's my hot take. You guys are what's wrong with the world. Oh,
God, I mean,
Oh,
that
that's
is just
so stupid to
offensive.
say.
everything these days is a rental, and it's terrible. I don't need to rent access to Microsoft Word. I don't need to rent a car. I don't need to rent all of the things.
There are
You
no
go out,
rentals now.
You buy a video
Right,
game,
like,
you
yes.
own it.
Such bad takes.
We
with-
all do that.
with
This was
almost
back in the
everything.
90s,
I
Kenny.
get it. I get it with movies. You go and you watch it once. You don't want to replay it.
I
Video
do.
games are for owning. Movies are for renting.
This is such
Also bad.
a weird take. I mean,
Yeah.
die. Listen, I don't remember all the games. I've got a fairly poor memory, but what's interesting is I was thinking through my catalog of rentals, Nolan, like you, most of the games that I've rented, we've also played on the podcast by now, which is
that's fun.
interesting.
I thought of a third one. Snowboard Kids. Also played on the podcast.
Oh,
Rented
yeah?
it all the time. Yeah. Go ahead.
So I mainly rented for the PlayStation because it was like mid to late 90s
Sure.
when I was doing Blockbuster.
Yep.
And so Saga Frontier and Final Fantasy Tactics were 2 games that
Whoa.
I rented. Not great options because you can't beat an RPG like that in
Right.
a limited amount of time.
Right. It's
But-
why you don't want to rent it.
But I was always about RPG anyways. And Kenny, you could pay another $1 or $2 and keep it for an extra day.
And
so, like,
Kenny, the games back then
Oh,
were
you're
still
right.
$60, some $70. And back then, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous now. And so back then, my parents weren't going to buy me that game.
This is not the segue, but I also rented some Super Nintendo games, and I tend to rent fighting games because
Toons.
those are more
Yeah.
like short
Yep.
session kind of things. So
Definitely.
Killer Instinct, which I don't think we played on the
No,
podcast.
we haven't. We haven't.
And Clay Fighters, which
Clay
we
Fighters.
did play on the,
Yep.
on the podcast. Those are games.
Kenny liked
Those
that.
are the kinds of games that I'd rent.
That game.
Kenny, you said Blockbuster was your rental place.
Absolutely, but we rented movies like
saying
real
movies.
people.
Okay, so
And
what
didn't rent
movies?
video
What
games.
movies?
Okay, what
Everything.
movies?
You
Okay.
scope all the new releases first, see what's out,
Yeah.
check it. If they're out of everything, you go scope the pile of everything that's been returned in case somebody brought it back. And
I
you
love
can ninja
rentals.
it before somebody else gets there.
I love that.
And if that doesn't work, you walk the aisles
Yeah.
based on like genre that you're feeling, and you read covers, and then you cross your fingers because there's some gems, and then there's some whiffs.
That's
And it was hard to
better
know.
than browsing Netflix. It is.
Oh, it's so
Oh.
much better.
It is.
Yeah.
And like hold it up next to each other and like read the description on the back and have to like
Yeah.
compromise who's getting which of their movies. or
Look
if
at
you're
y'all getting
multiple
nostalgia.
movies.
All right. Like,
Man,
I-
Blockbuster was life.
I get it. Today, for like an audience that didn't grow up with it, I understand that it might seem ludicrous, but there's something. There's something amazing about having just like an exhibit of games to rent for a few days. You just can't get that same feeling today, but back then it was just our method, man.
Man.
Keep going. Keep going.
Okay, Snoop Dogg.
Okay.
Like in our retro game of the week, Def Jam, Fight for New York.
Overview.
The year is 2004, and sitting in a Blockbuster, they're still open,
Of course.
was a game for the PlayStation 2 and or the GameCube and or the Xbox called Def Jam Fight for New York. It was a sequel to Def Jam Vendetta, which was also on the PlayStation 2.
Yes.
And it is a hip hop influenced action game, which it's a fighter. It's a wrestling game.
It is well, Vendetta was for sure a wrestler. This one's
Okay.
both.
More of a brawler.
Yeah, it's a
fighter.
brawler fighting game.
Yeah, it's more of a brawl than like a wrestling game proper.
The game was developed by Aki Corporation, which is an indie studio that was known for its wrestling games. So some of the
Interesting.
more notable wrestling games around and before this time,
Like WWE stuff?
WWE,
Wow.
WWF, WCW. I think we've only played one wrestling game on this podcast. I had forgotten until I was looking at the
Correct.
Retro Master List. We played WCW Mayhem, I
Yeah.
think.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's
and
one where you could go backstage and fight.
yeah. And that was not Aki Corporation, but
Okay.
a lot of the other ones were.
Yeah, and those were big at the time. Those were really big.
Big at well, I guess just I was about to say for some reason.
I
but
didn't like
wrestling,
them.
I mean,
but
but
they were.
wrestling was just massive.
It
during
was,
that time.
yes.
So it's like in my mind, to me back then, it was like sports games
Yeah.
are to people who really like sports
Sure.
games, which wasn't me.
Yeah.
Wrestling games were for people that really like wrestling,
Yep.
which wasn't me.
Yeah, same.
And Kenny was certainly
Kenny,
not a
I think
wrestler.
Kenny liked
No.
wrestling. Why do I think that? No? Okay, never mind.
It was published by EA Games. You're
Whoa.
familiar with that, of course. And it's interesting that this game was selected. Well, let me before that. Def Jam. Def Jam is a label.
Yeah.
A hip hop label
Yep.
that signed and still signs. Correct.
I don't know. You say Jay-Z?
I think so. I would.
Well,
assume.
I'm just saying that still like it's still
Oh, I have no idea. I'm not going to say.
But I think isn't Ye on?
He was.
Ye?
No, he has his own label now, but
he
he,
has
he
his
got
own
his start with Jay-Z through Def Jam, yes.
Okay, got you. But primarily hip hop rapping scene.
Yeah.
So we're
Huge.
talking about in this game in particular. I already said some of their names in the segue, but like Snoop Dogg, Ludacris, Busta Rhymes, Flava Flav. I heard on the soundtrack, Outkast.
Outkast is on the soundtrack, yes.
So I'm assuming they're Def Jam.
Yeah,
You'd have to
Bust
be.
from
I would
The
assume,
Love
yeah.
Below. I love that song. I saw that and I was
So-
like, oh.
So like some big hitters, also
Yeah.
some like C-list people as well.
Sure.
That you maybe wouldn't know
Lots.
as well.
Yeah.
But some names that were very big in the late 90s, early 2000s.
The concept is so funny to me. Like hey, every big name in hip hop right now, you want to be in a video game where you beat each other up. Like,
Wouldn't they have to have a pretty big budget for a game like this to
Yeah.
have that many people on it?
yeah, I mean,
Like, they're paying
I would
them.
think because
or just get buy-in.
maybe,
Or,
but they had the soundtrack
or maybe as
too.
a part of their Def Jam contract, we can
Right.
use you in whatever way.
Because they had money
Because it
for
came
sure.
through. Because it came through the studio. Yeah,
The
if
music-
you're signed with Def Jam, and Def Jam is doing like a Def Jam game. You may
Yeah.
not have a choice.
And this was pre-streaming when the music labels owned everything. They were huge.
Yeah.
It was like the biggest industry. It was gross. Like,
Yeah.
so they had the money. But also, like, violent video games just sold well back then. So they were like, yeah, let's just beat each other up in this
Violent
game.
video games.
Yeah, they did.
And it is. It's not as violent as the game that started the summer pool party. I was going to say it earlier, but I think it's
No.
good now. It's just so uncanny and interesting that we began this summer pool party with a Patreon pool selected game, 50 Cent Bulletproof, and we're ending it with a hip hop inspired Patreon pool selected game, Def Jam Fight for NY.
This is unrelated, but I'd like to announce the summer pool party is canceled until further notice.
Until
So-
next summer.
Until next summer.
No,
Yeah.
not. It's canceled next summer. Y'all
Oh,
are
okay.
punished.
Yeah.
I did play this
I-
growing up, though, by the way.
Yeah, which and 50 Cent,
And
right?
Bulletproof, yes.
That doesn't make any sense.
Same friend down the street had both, and we played it often. I don't know. He had Vendetta as well.
And Kenny had a lot of experience with this game growing up. Like, this was his main
He didn't know
one.
it existed.
Yeah, this is not my genre, or my
Scene.
I don't know scene.
Scene.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's none of our scene. Nolan and
Oh.
I like hip hop a lot
Yes.
more, but like, I mean, we're three middle class
It's
white guys.
it's more my scene than both of y'all.
No,
Yeah,
I am
from the
more.
streets.
I am
No.
more from the streets than
No,
you.
you're not. You don't have any cred. I've got some cred.
Let's move on. This game was submitted by patron Konstantinos.
Don't ever submit again.
No, shut up.
no
And
one
let
is
me-
so salty.
Let me give you the story because when I say wrestling game, when I say brawler, you might not think story. Well, play this game because there's a lot of it, and it's pretty in
It's so
depth.
ridiculous.
So I wondered if there was a connection between this story and Vendetta's story, and absolutely there
Yeah.
is. So this is the this is the con-
Literal sequel. Like the
Oh,
way
yeah.
Vendetta
Well,
ends, this story
yes.
immediately picks up.
Exactly. There you go. So this is a direct sequel to Vendetta, and the main connection is D-Mob. He is the kind of like boss-like character. Actually, he is like the ultimate boss in Vendetta. He is the underground boss of the Urban Fighting League, and your character works his way up to defeating D-Mob, and then D-Mob is arrested, and that's where this game begins. D-Mob's in the cop car, they're pulling away, and then your character slams their car into the cop car, rescuing D-Mob, and begins to work for D-Mob and fight your way through the New York underground, fighting foes like Ice-T, Sean Paul, Trejo, Magic, who's Busta Rhymes, and if you're good enough, Crow, who is
Snoop Dogg. Doggy dog.
Gameplay.
I love that in that scene where you start the whole game and get into the story and rescue him, how flawlessly they do the segue to character customization. Like
That's
you
great.
literally see it's great. You literally see the legs of a character walk up and like rescue this guy and then drive off. And then the cops that were there and had gotten hit and saw you rescue him get taken in and are interviewed and go sit down with a sketch artist. And then
Right.
you're like interviewing as the sketch artist, recalling what the person looked like.
It's actually
and
great.
getting to choose a bunch more customization than I expected to get a character that's exactly who you want. Which was a crazy amount of more depth than I expected right off the bat.
I didn't get exactly what I wanted because I tried to create Kenny.
Okay.
And
Okay.
no matter what options I was choosing, I did not get anyone that looked
They
anything
didn't have
like Kenny.
strong enough
The-
choices.
The character creator wasn't as robust as the ones now, but
Oh, is it?
back
No.
then, though, you didn't really get that. And in a game
And
like this, I was like, whoa, Okay.
It leaned into kind of like 4 or 5 sort of like
Presets.
archetypes
Yeah,
that
sure.
are sort of the like kind of hip hop look. You're really mixing and matching sort of from some cookie cutter choices, but a bunch of them and
Yeah.
enough options that you could get somebody that like fit the type of character you want.
And then so you create your character, and then you're given a pad, a room to operate out of, because you're kind of in hiding from the cops.
Yep.
And so the room, I thought when I first got it that I'd be able to like upgrade it throughout based on the money that I was receiving.
did
That would have
too.
been cool. But you can't. The only thing that's really changing in the room is trophies. You've got a couple walls of trophies that you can get based on things that you're accomplishing in game. It's really achievements is what you're trying to get throughout the game.
I mean, there's more things you're changing. You're literally changing outfits in your room if you want to.
It's not changing the room, Kenny.
I did
Just
think
because the word
You're
change is there.
changing in the room.
I thought you could turn it into like a really sick like bachelor
Oh, yeah.
pad, you know, like with like
Right.
a really nice everything. I don't know, because I mean, GTA did that back then, so I thought they were just because a lot of these like I don't even know what to call this kind of game. It's not a spin-off of anything. It's just one of those like it just takes inspiration from a lot of other games at the time, and so I was expecting that, but still cool that like it sets up all that at the beginning. I like that, and with the story because there's cutscenes in between that actually makes sense with what's happening. So
Yeah, you say GTA like it wasn't that, but I got some real GTA vibes here. Having a place, having customization, having a hub, getting communication as you're getting voicemails and emails on your phone, which is very like in the moment culturally,
Yeah.
the little like slide phone with
Yeah.
the keyboard. And then you've got all your game options, your customization options for your character, the way you upgrade your character, the way you upgrade your look. Like there was a lot more depth here than I expected.
And then the main part of the game is when you're not customizing your character or like upgrading his threads or his bling, you are fighting.
yeah,
You're going into one-on-one fights. Sometimes you'll go into free-for-all. Sometimes you'll go into 2-on-2. Sometimes there'll be a cage match. But you are doing various kinds of fights, just working your way up in the underground. Some of them are tethered to story. So like you'll aggravate some other guy and you'll have to fight him, or you'll steal someone's girl, but a lot of them are mainly like you're entering into the underground ring, and so it's not like it's friendly fights for the most part. I mean, like you're not no one's angry.
These are not friendly fights.
They're very it's one of the okay, so this game is over the top and intentionally
everything.
so. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, it is. It's not Mortal Kombat. Let's be clear.
No.
It's not, but it does take inspiration from Mortal Kombat in how extreme the fatalities are in Mortal Kombat. The like fired up modes or fired up grabs in this game get extremely brutal. I mean, throwing someone headfirst into a brick pillar definitely made me recoil. There are a few things in here. It's just a bunch of like those kinds of reactions constantly, which is what you're
Constantly.
But the camera never zooms in to see the spine
The bones
shattering
breaking. Well,
and
no.
the heart bursting. Like
But it's still really
and there are
brutal.
no like there's death actually. I was about to say there's no death, but there kind of is. But there's no
a
like
bunch of it.
stabbing or bullets or anything like that.
No,
It's fighting.
It's not the gratuitous, like even 50 Cent Bulletproof. I'm going to
Sure.
keep referencing that. I think that's a good reference. It's not, that's over the top violent.
Death,
And
yes.
this is violent, but, I mean, it's very violent. It's just not maybe, gratuitous. You're not seeing, even the blood is very minimal of like what you're seeing when you're seeing it. But again, the whole game is over the top. Even the announcer at one time, I was about to start a match and the announcer was like, "Are you ready for some good old assault and battery 101?" Like,
Yeah.
it's just absolutely insane. But then, although it's got that on the top, like Mortal Kombat, I think the systems are fairly in depth.
Okay. So it is a 3D fighter. We need to clarify, like similar to Tekken. It's not a 2D fighter like Street Fighter. So that's not easy to make. I don't think that many people could make a 3D fighter then or even now and it be fluid. Controls, y'all know I'm big on fighting game controls being fluid. They are for the most part. It had a really good feedback loop. It's a lot more button mashing than your traditional kind of fighter. There's less strategy in inputs of like combo strings and stuff, but it feels good when you land a hit, and I think that's all they were trying to do. I didn't look past the depth of the fighting game aspect, the inputs towards that. It just felt right.
I felt like there was some there where you had to change your fighting style based on what kind of fighting your opponent did and what was going to work for your character versus the strength of the character that you're fighting. Because this is not one move set. They've got a whole 5 different sort of base fighting styles that each work completely differently. And so the interactions between each of those is going to be a little bit different. And then over time, you can kind of combine and learn multiple styles and sort of customize how you want to play the game based on your preferences, which is super intriguing.
Not only are you mixing and matching your fighting styles, there are tons of special moves and tons of finishers, and then you can use the environments around you. It's some of the more fun things. Nolan, you mentioned throwing someone's head into a wall, but you can grab a broomstick from someone in the audience.
Oh my god!
Smack someone
You
in the
laughed
head.
so hard in the first play at that. That was great.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. In the cage match, you can throw your character up against the cage and then open the door, put his head in, and just smash it. Again, violent.
The stage where you can damage their car and win the match by damaging their car too much, and they're like, hey.
There's one fight in the underground, in the metro, that if you toss your opponent off onto the tracks when the train's coming by.
Get throwing people out the window. I love the environment aspect of this.
But the fun thing is, so there's a lot of depth there, and I think it takes. Here's the thing, I think in my first play, I easily won that first battle, which was interesting coming back to it because I actually started the game over because I wanted to create a custom character. And got locked immediately. Could not, for the life of me, figure out how to beat someone. It took sometimes multiple attempts because I would just get locked in this, stunned. And then they would do another thing, and I'd be stunned, and they'd do another thing, and then I could never retaliate. And I felt like the learning curve here was fairly steep without the best explanations along the way of how to do things.
The game doesn't tell you about counters. Very vital.
It doesn't tell you a lot of things. It has a tutorial, but it teaches you 2 or 3 basic concepts.
Teaches you offense.
And then teaches you a couple other sort of key understandings, like how to turn on your blaze mode, that the fact that you're gonna have to use a KO to end the match, which is kind of frustrating on its own in its own right. It works, but you really have to learn those mechanics. And I was with you, Dustin. I struggled early just because I had a really hard time finishing matches. There's only certain ways you can end your opponent, and if you can't figure out the specific moves that work well there and
be in a fight forever.
Them, then you're going to be in a fight, and what I would do is I would be in a fight and I'd run around the ring waiting for someone to have a
weapon
consumable so I could grab something and bash them for the KO.
Yes.
And it was that piece was really frustrating. But yes. And how much frustration you have there and how easy those KOs probably is going to depend on what class you pick too.
Absolutely.
And so you're going to have a very different experience depending on which way you've decided to play the game.
So this is interesting, and I think it can go back to a couple things. One, I play more fighting games than y'all do, and so I think I was there's got to be some sort of counter or guard that is very important in this game, so I looked it up and found it. If you don't do that, you're going to get beat up. Two, I think a lot of what we're feeling there too, with those matches going on forever, is going back to the wrestling thing from the first one and this development team making wrestling games. Because if you remember WCW, I would be in those matches for years.
Those were like 30-minute
matches.
Dude, those were obscene, and it was actually a
and
problem,
if you don't know how to
you
win
shouldn't
them,
even play that game.
Well, no, but if you don't know how to
that.
win them, you're not going to get out of the match. So I wonder if they leaned a little bit on the wrestling side of things and less so on the like just beat people up and make their health go down side, the fighter side of things. Because I felt that learning curve too. It was pretty annoying.
It's a hybrid of both, though. If you don't like wrestling games and you hear what we're saying, that this came from a wrestling game company and has some roots in wrestling games, you might be like, I don't want to play it. I'm not a fan generally of that fighting style. And even though I struggled here with the learning curve and I popped open and set that game on easy right off the bat because I'm not an idiot. I know who I am and still had a hard time. You might be like, this isn't for me. But there's enough just generic fighter stuff, too, that as long as you've got those basics of learn some moves, learn when to do what against what, and you're open to learning as it teaches you, you're going to figure this out, and it's not going to feel like a wrestling game. It's going to feel like Def Jam, because it's not like anything else.
And a lot of those fighting styles that are in this game, like grappler, martial arts, and then just kickboxer, those are usually baked into fighting games under the hood. So you have different characters, which we need to, by the way, there are 75 in this game, Smash Bros. Much. Usually those are just okay, so Zangief is, a grappler. So I know how to play his style, but in this one, it's a little more blatant. And your character is a hybrid eventually, but the characters you're facing are clearly they're going to do the same move to you until you get used to it and know how to defend against it.
I progressively got better, which you should in a video game. Well, what's interesting, honestly, is that I got better and then I hit a wall and almost put the game down and didn't come back to it because I would have to fight a battle over 10 times and then just get lucky and win, and that's not fun.
That's not fun at all.
But the more that I learned the systems, because you have to learn the systems, and then the more that I used my winnings, you get both money and DP, I believe is what it's called, and you can spend those. I think you can spend the money and the DP on money on different things that can up your charisma, which is super interesting, which helps your blazon meter fill faster. And then so
and you can taunt to fill it.
The more jewelry you buy, it will go up more quickly, and the crowd will love you more. They don't teach you that, right? Yeah. But then you can spend your DP points. So we know this one on upgrading your skills. Yeah. So you've got upper strength, lower strength, speed, which is the one that I went for, and health and toughness. I think
I went for health.
What you're telling me though is that my blaze meter would have filled faster if I hadn't chosen to start the first couple of fights fighting just completely naked because I thought it was funny.
Kenny, that is funny. First of all, I didn't think about that.
I actually did want to ask what was your primary clothing for your character, because this is a big part of this game.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
go ahead, Kenny.
Oh, you go.
Naked.
No, you go.
Okay.
No, I mean,
Kenny,
I started that way, and then I
nude.
was like, that was dumb and juvenile, and I moved on. But I very much role-played my character as scrawny, Asian sort of kung fu style person.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, I did the shortest, skinniest person I can. I leveled up speed kinds of stats first. And so he had on just sports shorts.
Yeah.
No shirt, a headband, some tape on his knuckles, and that was it, and it worked.
I went for the classic hoodie and jeans, and I would just change the color, and then chains.
You did jewelry?
Yeah, of course.
I did a few different things. The one that I ended up with is the one that I enjoyed the most. It's interesting because my fighting style was not this, but I ended up having the karate pants, black pants with a red kind of sash belt,
Oh yeah, those are sick.
Shirtless with a big chain, and just a red thread around his bicep.
Can I just say, if you're actually going to go into underground street brawls,
Don't show up
wearing
like that.
jewelry is a terrible, terrible, terrible idea.
I mean,
Not rings, because, dude, the more damage... I mean, it doesn't in this game.
maybe
I put
that's
so many rings
justifiable,
on.
but you don't want to put a necklace
in a
on.
real one, Kenny, you
You're
take it
gonna
off
just
before
get
you
choked
fight.
out.
You take it
No
off and
one
give it
knows.
to the homie before you
Nolan
fight.
and I have been to a few of those.
Right, I
underground
told you I have
fights.
cred.
You put you take the necklace off. And then I got a there's also a tattoo shop.
Yeah.
There's a hair shop so that you can get your hair done. All of those things contribute to your charisma, which is not not told and not a visible stat. So you wouldn't necessarily figure it out.
But extremely
unless-
important to a main mechanic in fights.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and I think the way they push it is that almost after every match, you get a freaking voicemail or text message from one of these guys saying, "Please come to my shop. I got new stuff."
yes, and just a point about the story really quick. It's bonkers, okay? Danny Trejo walked into the screen, and I was like, I hate this podcast. What are we doing? And then Henry Rollins is in it.
Is your trainer?
Come on. Well, that's amazing and insane and stupid.
What's even more amazing is that for some reason, at some point, like a guy comes up to me that's in my like crew and he says, "Hey, which shoddy do you want to take home tonight?"
Oh,
and
yeah,
so
which one?
you look around the room, and I wanted to pick a hot girl, and I picked her, but then I had to fight for her, and I got beat up, so I ended up walking out with Shaniqua, who's this troll-like character.
I forgot that happens.
Later, I
Yeah.
found interest in a girl at a different bar called Carmen Electra.
Yeah.
And then I picked Carmen, but then Shaniqua got mad, and so
Yeah.
Carmen and Shaniqua had to fight it
Yeah,
out.
I went with Kimura.
Okay. Good
Did you go with
pick.
Lil Kim, Kenny?
No,
No?
He took all of them home.
Oh yeah.
I'm not a little Kim boy.
Not a little Kim boy. I
Clip
would
it.
have never thought that on this
Clip
podcast.
it.
That's what Kenny would say. Not another Kim boy. Or man. Free for all match. Can we talk about? We don't have to talk about all the different kinds of matches, but the one that made me most frustrated was the free for all match. It's a match where you're typically put in a ring with 3 other people, and it's just free for all. And so everybody's fighting everybody. You can switch, but again, it doesn't tell you how to switch between who you're fighting. And if you don't get the upper hand, you can get knocked out early, and then there's no way to end the match, and you have to spend the next 5, maybe 10 minutes watching the CPUs fight each other.
Yeah, that's multiplayer mode, correct? You can have other players with you?
Oh, I don't know, but it's also...
I'm asking because I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that would make sense because I'm with you. Single player, that makes no sense to just watch the CPU. And yeah, all it means is the difficulties you felt in the story mode are times 3 now.
Right.
Which is like getting grabbed. And I played it once and was done. Unless you played on the one where you can throw them on the train tracks.
Well, no, I'm not even saying... Like, that's not even just different modes. Like, those come up in the actual game. So, like,
okay, got you.
As a part of the story.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
like you have to end up playing them. And if you can get knocked out early, just bad luck, and then again you're just waiting and watching. So those were frustrating to me. But all of the one-on-ones as I got better and upgraded my character, I got better and better at. And even I really enjoyed the 2-on-2 matches where you and a friend get to you and a computer friend get to go up against 2 others. I think that one was fine, but the only one that really bothered me was the free-for-all.
Yeah.
Aged.
So the issue you run into with this is that some of these rappers aren't relevant anymore, despite what they may think. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. That's going to happen. But you run the risk of people approaching this game now and saying, "Where's Drake?" or who's Exhibit?
Right.
You know,
It's almost like a sports game. Like people play the latest
Yeah,
sports games
kinda.
because they want to play their heroes that are relevant. And like rappers are going to get more popular and less popular and known over time. So there's almost this time capsule thing about it.
Yeah.
And I don't know here if it's a hurdle for people caring because they don't know and it's dated cultural references, or if it works almost like a little like kind of museum-ish moment where you get this sort of slice of life of what hip-hop culture was at the moment. But I'm afraid for a lot of people it will be the first, that it will be sort of like, I don't care about these people.
Yeah.
I would say that it, in my mind, you know, again, I'm from the scene. I didn't even know, like, some of these people I didn't even know ever. Like, Crazy Legs.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
know.
know
You
who
knew
that is.
Flava Flav.
You did or didn't?
Yeah, everybody
Well,
does. That's
yeah,
what I'm saying.
of
you
course,
know
but-
Snoop Dogg. You know, like some of these people
Yes, I know
are
some of them,
known.
and some of them still are relevant. But the thing is that in my experience this week, it wasn't the main thing. It wasn't like I'm looking for my favorite rapper, and I understand some
Yeah.
people would be playing it like that.
Yeah.
For me, it was like this is an added thing when Busta Rhymes shows up, and I'm like, I recognize
Yeah,
him, or when like it was the added thing, not the main thing.
Okay.
So it didn't take away this week for me at least.
Interesting, because the drawback then definitely was, whoa, Lil Kim's in this
For sure.
game, like that kind of stuff. So, and it didn't
But
distract me.
That
either.
that wouldn't carry a game enough for
Absolutely
most
not.
people. For
Absolutely
hardcore
not.
fans, it would, but for most people, you have to have a good game backing that.
Yeah.
We don't always talk about this, but because this game is relatively popular, I feel like if you're actually trying to go out and play the game, you're getting yourself a disc. My understanding is pretty hard to come by.
Really?
I think that's a factor for some people in how game ages in terms of their just like access to it.
Yeah.
Well, 100% of the time we talk about the pricing of the game.
Yeah,
and
we do,
So I think
and we'll get there.
Well, no, I mean we'll get there right now because you went right there.
yeah,
But
bring it up.
like you can buy a PlayStation 2 disc, but
Right.
they are rare. So like $118 used and
Whoa.
$410 new.
Why? That didn't
Because
make
rare
it. a lot?
and this game is really popular.
People want to keep it.
Okay. Actually, a note about that. So the FGC, the fighting game community, really like this game. Some as a joke and as a meme, but some as like, hey, this isn't terrible. Again, 3D fighter, you don't have a lot of those to compare to at the time, except for the big hitters. It's funny to me that some people still cite this as like a fun and good fighting game from people who know what they're talking about. So maybe that has something to do with the price.
You know how like certain genres primarily live on certain consoles?
Yes.
Was there a console that primarily had the fighters on it?
Arcade. First and foremost, always.
Sure,
After that, I would say
after that.
if I had to choose a console, it would have probably been PlayStation 1,
Yeah.
2, and later.
I also have
Not
an
Xbox.
association. I don't know why, and it might be wrong, but I also have a little bit of an association that sort of the hip hop culture games tended to be PlayStation centric. Like
I bet
that,
they could get away with a lot
Yeah,
more than Nintendo because remember Nintendo
Absolutely.
wouldn't allow like adult content.
No.
No, if you're
Like-
playing video games in the hood, it was on a PlayStation.
Yeah, Conker's Bad Fur Day is about as crass as you get on
Sure.
the Nintendo.
Right.
But this one was on GameCube, which I find interesting because
That is, yeah.
it's pretty violent.
Well,
but you're
maybe
right.
by GameCube days, they've loosened up just a little
Probably.
bit. I don't
But
know.
fighting games were primarily on PlayStation
Yeah.
when they got the port from the arcade. But the ones that were made for console were on PlayStation.
Let's talk about you brought up the rappers and let's talk about them in relation to voice acting because that they are voice acting their characters,
Yep.
Which is good and notable and noticeable. I am going to make one more comparison here.
Okay.
I thought they were good, but I wasn't as wowed by them as the voice acting from
Bulletproof.
50 Cent Bulletproof.
I'm with you. I mean,
The 50
Sure.
Cent Bulletproof blew me away.
I mean, Snoop, no matter what, I'm on board. And so Snoop was great. Crow, best character. But I'm with you. Like Eminem in Bulletproof was like really good.
yes.
I also don't think that was as much the focus here. You did get a ton of story, a lot more than I would expect for the game. But the core of this
Yeah.
game is your, brawl experience and everything else is great. Don't get me wrong. I love the fact that they gave you that depth and immersion and everything else. But that was bonus here, not like the thing. And so I don't think that's where you put your like development time.
Yeah.
Likewise, I didn't think the music was as good as Bulletproof either. I thought the music
Really?
was good. I'm not, and this is just me. I'm not as familiar with the catalog, and I guess it's a much more vast catalog. I feel like
Well, yeah, the other
in
one was just
Bulletproof,
50.
You're working with like 4 to 5 like 10 characters. In this one, like you said, you've got 60 something or 70 characters, and so they've got a lot of different music, and I didn't know a lot of tracks.
I liked the variety here. I think some of it's definitely a little dated because of when this game came out and like popularity. But like this Def Jam, like this is big known stuff.
Not all of them.
Well, no, not all of them. Not all of them. And don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say this is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and I'm like gonna listen to this for inspiration while I'm working out or something. But like I felt like it was a pretty good catalog considering.
It was great. The music's fantastic. Again, you have real songs on a video game track to fight other rappers to. Good job, EA. That's what makes the games like this stand out, because the people that want to play it, you better have something for that audience, and for that audience, it would be the music. So I loved it. It's got Outkast on it.
Yeah, that blew me away.
Nolan's just trying to prove that he's from the streets. He's trying.
I don't have to prove it, Kenny.
His street creds.
I don't have to prove it. People just know.
But like, it's also got tracks from like Fat Joe and from
I love Fat
Mobb
Joe
Deep and people that you don't know or care about.
You are
take
crazy.
you to the candy shop. Like 50 Cent had all of
You're just
the
a 50
good
fan, and
tracks.
that's fine. I am too. But like, don't hate on Fat Joe. Are you serious?
I'm just saying,
he is a legend.
If 50 would have gone down into the underground in NY, he would have been able to take all of them.
No, he got shot 5 times, 6
Yeah,
times, 9
and
times.
survived.
I know,
Nolan.
he's a hero. I love him.
He's a hero. He's a national treasure. Graphics, were you impressed?
No. I don't hate them. I almost hate them. It's that wide set, chunky looking character model that was seen a lot of in a lot of games. Yeah, the pulled back face, wide face. In fact, 50 Cent Bulletproof kind of had this graphic style, and I hate that. It's such a relic of 2002 to 2006. I don't like it.
They're still working on realism during
Yes,
this time, you know?
exactly. It was that transition phase.
It very much feels like when it is. But I don't feel like they did a terrible job with it. There were some moments where they're trying to do the 3D thing, and you'd have sort of foreground characters or environments that were supposed to get kind of blurred out so you could see that didn't well enough, and you'd kind of lose yourself. There were some other just sort of like practicalities that bugged me. But overall, I feel like I knew where I was. The environments worked and were super diverse. And it didn't like it wasn't like the best visuals of all time in terms of implementation, but it looked pretty good. It was clear enough to me what was going on that it wasn't a distraction. So I think they did a good job with the visuals overall.
Same. I think they did a good job. Maybe not a great job. The only thing that like I scoffed at was on the fight cards. You've got character portraits of all the people that you're fighting, and those are like stylized a little bit. And then you've got your 3D model character. And they can't do a stylized version because you custom created them and have their own clothes on and everything. But like you've got these realistic portraits, and then you've got your like
and their names are like elaborately drawn. In like that graffiti style or whatever, and yours is just like text. It's like Arial.
My first play had NGP. Like I had to go back and change.
Just
that
not
because,
cool.
No, they have these really cool fight cards, and yours is just the derpiest thing. It's ridiculous. It's okay. We said that this game has 70-something fighters. This game was actually ported to the PlayStation Portable, and it was called Def Jam Fight for NY: The Takeover. And I believe that they even added characters, added takeover moves, added some different venues, and so even more characters than that is just absurd to think about. But I would imagine by the time that game came out, maybe there was some more people on the Def Jam label. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they signed people for the game. Hey, you want to be in Fight for New York?
Final thoughts.
At the end of each and every one of our podcasts, we determine whether or not the game gets our general thumbs up or thumbs down. Swing 2/3 of the votes, swing one way or the other. I'll begin by saying something similar to what I said earlier. I was immediately intrigued by this game. First of all, actually, let me take a step back. I'm always hesitant towards games that just seem like cash grabs, put a big name on it. I anticipate them to be bad. So then I was intrigued because I was like, hey, this is kind of fun a little bit. I don't like wrestling games in general. This isn't fully my scene, although it is more than Nolan's. Well, it's not your turn. But I started to enjoy it. I did well at first, but then, like I said, I hit a brick wall. I hadn't learned the systems. I would rematch the same fighter over and over again, and I really almost gave up playing because I was not having fun. Then, because I'm doing a podcast, I kept playing, and I got better, and I got better, and I got better. And while it's not necessarily my preferred genre or my, immediate scene, and I prefer 50 Cent's music to all of Def Jam's label, that's saying a lot. And although this game is hard and can be incredibly frustrating at times, I think it's a lot of fun and probably one of the better stories of any wrestling game. What? And probably the only wrestling game I've ever actually liked. And so that alone causes me to give it my vote for New Game Plus status. I don't think everyone will. I don't even know if we'll end up in that direction because it's frustrating and it can be very difficult. But I had a lot of fun with it and the story is so much fun. I'm not finished yet, but I'm going to finish it. I'm nearing the end. And I'm having a lot of fun, and I've gotten so much better. I can knock these fools out very quickly now. Just watch my haymaker. I definitely give it my vote for New Game Plus status.
Nolan, you or me?
You.
Okay. This game had me so confused. The genre just it's not my thing. It's not my cup of tea. Tea is my cup of tea. That's who I am. This game is not something you would expect me to enjoy. And so I absolutely hate this game because even though I'm bad at it, I kept wanting to play. This game, it makes no sense. Why would I love a brutally violent, chaotic, irreverent fighter that's just doused in hip hop culture? I shouldn't. I really shouldn't. But I did. This game is very, very good. It's fun, it's immersive, it's replayable, it's loaded with charm, story, authenticity. I don't even like this game, and I like it. That's how good it is. Definite New Game Plus status for me, for sure.
Kenny needs an interpreter, we need an interpreter for Kenny.
Yeah, tea is my cup of tea. I hate this game. I keep playing it. What?
I hate the fact that even though I was bad at it, I kept wanting to play it. It makes total sense. I shouldn't have liked this game,
right?
And I loved it.
So you don't give it your vote for New Game Plus.
That
I absolutely give it my vote for New Game Plus status.
All right,
I don't not give it my vote.
That's 2/3. Nolan, go ahead and give your thoughts.
Look, I like it, okay? I think it's a fun gameplay loop. But, maybe more than the gameplay, I think the draw for me is the story mode. It's absolutely stupid and bonkers to the point
everything is
that where I'm just laughing the whole time.
Yeah.
Dude, Dustin already, I was going to give this example, but Dustin already laid it out. The whole girlfriend sequence is so dumb and great. What's her name when your girlfriend loses? Or what? Shaniqua. Dude, yes. Give me more of that. It's so funny. And like I said, it's fluid. It's a good 3D fighter. It's a fun single player. And like what was the fighting game we played recently where we said single player was the main focus? I don't think you'll lose anything by not playing a multiplayer, playing this fighting game with a friend. The single player mode is the draw. Maybe it wasn't a fighting game, maybe it was a shooter, but you'll lose nothing if you play this game single player. In fact, you'll gain so much. Yes, I give it New Game Plus. I played it back then, I'll play it today. Get off me. I'm from the streets.
Yeah, less than me. So that means that Def Jam Fight for New York is New Game Plus certified. But what did you think? We had 234 votes on YouTube. 47% said yes, it's worth playing today. 9% said no, and 44% have never played it before.
Whoa, that's a lot that haven't played it.
We had many people write in. We'll be able to include a few of your thoughts. Clint said, I came into this week with the assumption that Def Jam was a sellout cash grab title along the same lines as 50 Cent Bulletproof, Shaq Fu, and many others like it before. I was not expecting to enjoy the story, characters, and gameplay as much as I have. There are many weeks where I play the game of the week for an hour or so and never get the urge to even return to it after that. Every day this week, I've had to make a conscious decision to get necessary household work done instead of jumping back into Def Jam Fight for NY. I said it during the week, but this game feels like if Tony Hawk Pro Skater was a wrestling game instead of skateboarding. There's a lot of charm and some pretty polished gameplay here, and even though it took a few matches to even understand, this was a pretty great way to cap off the pool party.
It's an unexpected hit. It's a hidden hit.
Absolutely.
Better than Bulletproof?
Yes. It redeemed
yeah, I think so.
The genre for me.
It redeemed hip-hop.
Yeah,
it
did.
That's right.
We are where we are because of Def Jam 5 New York.
TH Spurs fan said, I'm a big hip-hop and wrestling/fighting game fan, so for me, I love the game and was surprised that it got picked. Anyhow, Def Jam Fight for NY is a favorite fighting/wrestling game of mine as it has a lot of my favorite rappers.
Yeah.
And being a wrestling fan, I was able to jump right into the game as it's the same engine used in No Mercy, WM2000, etc. with some tweaks, as the fighting is more on the flashy side than the more grounded pro wrestling.
Yes.
The fighting system is easy to pick up, and that's always a plus when you're playing with others. Some fighters are just near broken, like Lil Flip, Bless, and others are overpowered. But thankfully, the roster and created fighters keep it somewhat balanced.
It sounds like this game was made for you.
I would come up against fighters every once in a while that, like, another brick wall that, like, I just have to figure out their system.
Yes.
You know, and
great.
be able to overcome that. Like, I'd boom, 30-second fight, boom, 1 minute fight, and then boom, I could not
destroyed.
do anything to this person.
Yep.
Chris Wynn said, I'm not a particular fan of this era of hip-hop culture. I never play fighting games, let alone wrestling games. I was borderline dreading playing this. The first few hours were an absolutely frustrating slog as my wind-up animations were constantly being interrupted by my opponent. After preserving and taking the time to learn the game's nuances, I changed my tune. Not only is Def Jam Fight for NY an excellent fighting game, but it's also one of the most enjoyable gaming experiences I've had this year.
Okay.
I felt like a god as my obnoxious, out-of-place, white bread custom avatar ended round after round with a devastating haymaker. This game is all about timing, and once I figured out how to dance in the ring, the game just clicked with me.
Float like a butterfly.
The aesthetics and story weren't for me, but this could have used the Barbie license, and if the mechanics stayed the same, I'd still have loved it.
You lost me. Why does this
that
game have charm? On everybody. It's like, boom, you like it now.
But right, it's the same thing. It's like, oh no, this is
dread.
Oh, I don't understand it, and then boom,
yeah,
what is happening?
I don't know. It's a magic game.
Me.
Finally, Garlisle said, I want to complain about this game. Its rampant egoism and shameless sexism is everything I hate about the scene, and its bloated roster has more fighters than it does meaningful differences. Long animations and stun locks can leave you feeling helpless, and 4-player brawls honestly suck.
But
This is what it sounds like, probably. But
what?
We knew.
Dude.
That is where my complaints stop. The single player is meaty, and the environmental hazard system makes arenas interesting. Above all else, the mechanics are actually pretty solid, easily learnable, and once you find a flow, just plain fun. To say this might be the best wrestling game doesn't mean much, since the genre is usually so full of junk, yet it is the best I've played, and at some point I stopped calling it bad but fun, and instead just called it good.
So
Yep.
Def Jam Fight for New York is unanimous across the board for
Across
our
the
community
board,
and
Pretty
us.
much.
A
The
unanimous
people that kept
yes.
playing it. Yeah.
Wow.
Unexpected way to end the summer pool party,
This is
especially
dumb.
one that started with 50 Cent Bulletproof. But here we are. Man, we are, however, setting aside this game, and we are not going to randomly select from our Retro Master list because although the summer pool party is
I
over,
thought it was over.
is it? Is it?
Uh,
Or is it not really a surprise because we did it last year and we'll do it every year at the end of our summer pool party? We're having a producer poll.
Splash. Hot tub? It's a hot tub, right?
Hot tub
Yeah.
after party.
Okay.
This
Chill.
is the hot tub after party.
We're cooling down.
Well, and we've
No,
been
we're warming
wearing our swim trunks, but now we're taking them off.
We're warming up. Yeah, sorry. We're
I
going
still
in.
I still got my trunks on.
No, you don't.
I had a
I
second
do.
pair underneath mine, so I go,
Oh, okay.
and I'm still wearing them.
You know how some trunks have the netting? I've just
All
got
of
the
them.
netting on.
Just
Okay, just hit the randomizer,
All right,
please.
get in the hot tub with us because we've got games like Darkwing Duck and X-Men 2 Clone Wars from Justin. Oh, by the way, as I'm saying these, you'll find out. The thing that made last year's summer pool party so
what?
different than this one is that last year people were like, let's work together. This year everyone has gone rogue.
Wait, again?
Including our producers. Our producers
Producers?
don't care about each other.
What?
They only
No.
want their game picked.
they
Selfish.
want what they want, and no one can blame them for it.
Then
It's
I'm not hype.
2022.
I'm not hype anymore then.
William wants us to play Skies of Arcadia Legends. Clint wants us to play Metroid Prime Pinball. Nick Knack wants
Okay.
us to play Normality.
Don't know.
Ben Wilson wants us to play Faxinadu or The Guardian Legend. And Tal wants us to play Sphinx and The Cursed Mummy.
I'm so
Lots
worried.
of choices.
I don't know a lot of those games, which could be good, but yeah.
We're doing the most exclusive randomizer now. We're going to be playing a game, the newest game that we've ever played on the podcast because it is exactly 15 years old, and by exactly I mean
Whoa.
outside of a few months.
Whoa.
Crazy.
And
So like 2007?
2007, February 15th is the year that it
Okay.
came out in Japan. It didn't even make it over here for another year, so we wouldn't be able to play it. So we have to play it in Japanese.
Okay.
I think we'll give them a little bit of leeway here and just
Yeah.
round up
Okay.
and play it in English.
It's a puzzle adventure video game
I'm not
I'm
out
intrigued.
yet.
for the Nintendo DS.
I'm not out yet.
You understand, there's a few people in our community, producers in particular, that
Yes.
have wanted us to play a good DS game because we haven't had the best DS
As
experience.
have I. I'm
It
still
was
worried.
developed by Level 5 and published by Level 5 in Japan and Nintendo worldwide.
Okay.
It's the first game in its series.
Okay.
The game was submitted by Bruntk,
Yeah, I'm familiar.
and the title is
Oh god.
Professor Layton and the Curious Village.
Okay, I've heard of Professor
Professor
Layton.
Layton.
Interesting. No one's
It's like
discussed it.
anime style.
Yeah, something. It's got a style.
Listen, I'll allow it. Because I'm intrigued. And DS is quite hype. I'm not going to lie. This could be amazing. Now,
Okay.
we got to emulate this correctly this
Yes.
week, guys.
And that's my one thing. I want us, whatever we need to do and community help us, I want to get perfect emulation for this.
You need a Steam Deck.
Need
But,
some of the touch screen.
That's way too much of a request.
well, then you're going to have to use a mouse. To
It
click.
is on iPhone and Android, and I wonder if it's completely ported. Because if
Community,
so,
tell
that
us
might
what
be
to
the
play.
best way.
Brunt,
Community.
tell us what to play.
Garlisle probably.
Garlisle,
Like,
tell us what to play.
I want to play this as if I had a DS in my hand.
Yes. Yeah. Professor
I mean,
Layton.
there's
Let's go.
one answer there if you really want to.
Yeah, that is
There's
true. I
many
might,
answers, honestly.
I actually
within
might go
that, but-
Get
scope
a
it out
Get
at,
a DS.
at that store we went to, guys, down
Yep,
the street.
yep.
I might go see
Oh,
if they
yeah.
have it.
All
I have a
right, get us
DS.
some copies. Find a copy of Professor Layton and the Curious Village. Play along with Kenny, Nolan, Dustin, Brunt, and whoever else in our community doesn't want to get a haymaker.
Ooh, threatening.
Because he's from the streets.
If you have the appropriate amount of street cred, we will let you in our Discord server. Go to discord.gg/newgameplus. We have a bot that will screen you and make sure you're good to go, and it'll put you in there.
Here is a list of people that have more street cred than Nolan. Our producers:
dumb.
Adam and Marlene, Anton and Ben, Brunt, Captain Protein, Dan, DH Bowser, Francesca, Gimbin, Jerry, Joey, Jordan, J. Robert, Justin, Clint, Nick Nack, Corey, Maximum, Mr. Lattes, Nawal, Sage, and Shauna, Tao, Thomas, Unbedevable, William, Zion, and new this week, Logan joining our producer list.
Hey, welcome, Logan.
We also have 3 people that have more street cred than Dustin, including our director-level supporters, Rojim, Garlisle, and you heard me right. I said 3.
3?
Trace?
Shane hopping on board as a director this week.
Huge.
Shane.
I'm going to say thanks, Def Jam, because
Def Jam bringing us
see
together.
A new director hang out with us, so can't wait to get to know you a little bit, Shane, and thanks for your overwhelming support.
Yeah.
That is the way to end a summer pool party, by having a new director. So
Boom, boom.
welcome to the hot tub. And I'm sorry, I'm just wearing netting. You can
That's
you
right
can-
there.
You can follow us on social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, and YouTube. All of those links are in the show notes. Listen directly on any podcast provider of your choice. Make sure you subscribe so that you are the first to get new NGP episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a kind rating and review. Our video episode was edited by our friend Dylan. Our audio episode was edited and produced by our friend Dan Willett. Join us next week as we play Professor Layton and the Curious Village. Until then, I'm still Lil Kim.
I'm super excited about this game still.
I'm Kimura.
And this has been New Game Plus.